So as the system administration, one of your responsibility will be to set up and configure the server to provide services over the network. So why do we call a machine server, right? So we say server and then we say client. Being a server or being a client is not about the size of the machine or how tall it is, how heavy it is, okay? But there is a correlation. The servers are usually larger, expensive, and very fast, okay? But it doesn't have to be in that way. Even if your small laptop can be a server, okay? So it is about the application that you installed, and then there are a lot of services running on that machine, and then they respond to the clients. So it is just about the role. The clients sends requests, and then servers are usually in the listening mode. They get the request, and then they respond. Okay, there are a lot of types of servers: file server, web server, DHCP server, and so on. Okay, so it is because they serve to a bunch of other clients, other requests. Okay, yeah. So in this assignment, we will learn how to configure network settings and also network security, set up network security, and also remotely manage our server, and also configure a simple file sharing and web server. So this is also important, remotely managed server, because in most cases, the servers are running in a server room or in a data center. So usually they are not in your basement or somewhere, right? Because the servers, they are equipped with so many other resources, such as the air conditioning, and then power supply. In case you have power outage, you don't want your web server to be down, right? So in a lot of cases, you access your server remotely. And okay, and then we will configure a simple file sharing and web server. Okay, so let's get started. Normally we have part 1, 2, 3. So this is called part 0 because this is pre-assignment. It says if you have not completed the previous assignments, then you need to do this. In our case, we have already done this. Okay, we created these users, and we created groups, and we assigned users to these groups, and also we created some directories, and then we changed their permissions. So we are done. So we don't need to worry about it. And then we jump to part 1. Okay. So in the part 1, normally, so let me explain for some of you who may not have a networking background, or maybe you have not taken any networking class before. So imagine that you go to a public place. So for example, your school, okay, or university, or coffee shop, okay, and then you open your laptop, and then you see that okay, there is a the available network, wireless network, and you say okay, I want to join here, and then you get some Windows pop-ups saying that do you agree or do you accept the terms and conditions, and you say okay, yes, and yes, and then you connect to internet. Okay, so how do you connect to the internet? In order to be on the internet, you need to represent it by an IP address. Okay, So the IP address is usually on the other side of the router. So it may not be the IP address assigned to you, because there is most of the cases there will be NAT routers. So NAT is NAT, network address translation. So NAT enabled router. So that means in your house, okay, so you have a router, and you are assigned an IP address by the internet service provider. So your internet service provider could be Cincinnati Bell, for example. So in that case, you pay them a monthly fee, and then they assign you IP address. This IP address is dynamic. Okay, so it is not guaranteed what IP address you will get in a day. Let's say you are doing some very important business at home, and you definitely need a static IP address, which means the address does not change. And then you pay some extra money to the internet service provider. It could be maybe $10, $20 a month, and then you get the static IP address. So most of the time, you will have dynamic IP address, okay? And then inside of your house, you have multiple devices connected to internet at the same time. How is this possible? This is possible by using the network address translation, which means the router keeps track of the devices that needs to connect to the internet. And so one of the machine, it says, okay, I want to visit twitter.com, okay? And then the router takes the private, the internal IP address, okay? The internal IP address is just recognized inside of your house. So it is not visible at the other side of the router, which is, it is not visible in the public internet. And so your IP address comes to the router, and then also there is a port number. So the port numbers are a number between 0 and 65,000, approximately 65,000. And then that port number is also added to a network address translation table by the router. And then the router says, okay, this person wants to visit Twitter. And then it assigns a port number, the source port number, and then it goes to the Twitter, and then request comes, the response comes from the Twitter. When it comes, router looks at now the source port number, and it says that, okay, this belongs to this particular person at house, okay? And then several people connects to internet at the same time. However, okay, so now let's talk about the DHCP. I said when you go to a, for example, coffee shop or airport, okay, and then you are assigned an IP address, okay, by the router, and then who gives you this IP address? Okay, this is done by the DHCP server, and in most cases, DHCP server in your house, for example, most of the time it is your router. In some big environment like the universities, so airports and like the big institutes, there might be a dedicated DHCP server. Its job is to get the responses. The responses is, give me IP address. Please give me IP address so that I can connect to internet. This is the request. And then the DHCP server says, okay, I am giving you this IP address because this is available, because the IP address in a LAN, in a local area network, must be unique, okay? And then DHCP server keeps track of which IP addresses are in use and which ones is not in use and it is available. It gives the IP address, and also it gives a lifespan or expiration time. Okay, so it says this is good for, I don't know, maybe 5 hours, or it could be a few days. But in public places, it is good to keep the expiration time low, because somebody comes and then they just drink coffee or tea, and then in about 1 hour or maybe 2 hours they leave. Okay, so it is not good to give them maybe 4 days, 5 days, because if you say that okay, 5 days it belongs to this customer, then that IP address will be unavailable and you may run out the IP addresses available to you. Okay, so here, so this is the DHCP. So if you are using and this IP address dynamic, right? That means after it expired, you may be assigned a different IP address. So why is this a problem? It is problem because okay, let me ask you, why is this a problem for web servers? Can anybody tell me? Okay, so anybody wants to answer this? If you are running a web server and people visit your website and your website is in your machine, in your server, why is it a problem if your server has a dynamic IP address?
So if it's not static, they're not going to be able to find the website. It's always going to be changing. If it's not static, so they need it to be static, so they go to the same place without having to figure out. Yeah.
Yes, very good. Anybody else who wants to maybe explain in a different? So what this explanation is correct, yes, but I was looking for some other key terms, keywords. Anybody else maybe wants to answer?
Could it be something with how the web server interacts with a DNS server?
Yes, exactly. Yes, DNS was the keyword that I was looking for. Yes, very good. So the DNS is, so when somebody visits your website, they are not going to type 223 dot something something, right? So this would be an IP address. Nobody does that. So normally you would visit, for example, you say uc.edu, okay, or google.com. And then the DNS server converts from this domain to IP address. And so imagine that you are running your website, okay? So you have a domain and your website is annoyingorange.com, for example. And then it has a IP address, okay? If that IP address was dynamic, then you tell the DNS server, okay, this is my IP address and this is the domain. And then suddenly it changes. And the DNS servers, the propagation of the DNS servers is not very quick, it's not instant. It may take around 1 day or up to maybe 2 days to, 48 hours to propagate to entire world, okay? So you should have a static IP address so that your customers can reach, or your visitors can reach to your website all the time. Okay, so now let's continue. Yeah, so here, most of the time, it is, you can also assign IP address to customers. So still it can be dynamic, but you say, okay, this is your IP address, this is your IP address, but it would be a lot of work, okay? And then, so most of the time, it is very easy to just have the DHCP server to give out all the IP addresses. But this is not dynamic address is not good for the server. So to avoid this, we will manually set our network settings to a static IP address. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So for in our case, we are going to reuse the settings given to us by the DHCP service. Okay. Because again, we don't have static IP here, but so that IP address also changes by the given by the DHCP server. But so we will show that how we can get use whatever it is given to us, and then we use that as a static IP address. So first of all, let me connect. I'm not sure if I will be able to connect. Last week we had, okay, that's good. I connected. Okay. I got the same problem. I think I may have to go back to here. Firefox. Let me see if Firefox will work. Okay, Firefox worked. So let me go to here. Let me. Okay, let me stop sharing. Okay, so this is the project and this is the sandbox. Let me open this one. It is really beautiful outside today. So as opposed to very, very cold weather for the last maybe 1 week, today I think it was around 50 or 51 degrees outside, which is very nice. Okay, so let me connect. Okay. Okay, let me make it smaller. Okay, so here, part one. So we will configure the network. So here, we use this one, find the network settings of your system by running this command. Okay, so network manager for the using this CLI. Actually, let me just close this terminal. Close this and open the terminal. Okay, so here, network manager CLI, okay, and then we say D option, and then show, okay. So this gives us a list of network adapters on our system. So network adapters are the part that connects you to the internet, okay. So it could be either a wireless or wired network adapter. So here, look for the line that starts general device. Follow the letters ENS, okay? So ENS indicates Ethernet network adapter. And this number may differ from this image because it is based on what we have given to us in the canvas. So let's go back to here. I say show, enter. Okay. Let me make this larger. Okay. So here we have ENS 160. Okay, so this represents the Ethernet. And then, so let me take a screenshot here, or you can write it down on your system. But remember that what you see here, because we are using different virtual machines, so what you see here may be different than, so I mean, yours might be different. So I will just take the screenshot of this because we will need some of these numbers. The numbers that we will need especially is IP address, okay, IP4 address, which is this one. But remember, of course, this is not the public IP address. This is the private or internal IP address, okay? So 24 is the subnet mask. That is how many IP addresses that we have available. So what else? Yeah, also you will need IP4 gateway. And so that is another IP address. And then the DNS, IP4 DNS, and there will be 2 IP addresses, okay? Okay, so to change these settings, we will use a network manager. Network manager is a text user interface. So instead of GUI, like graphical user interface, this is called TUI or 2I. I don't know how to pronounce it. So that is which is a cross between graphical user interface and CLI. That means it looks like this, okay? So still, it is not very clear graphical user interface, but still it represents like boxes, or there is even shadow to give you some graphical user interface feeling. So here we type this network manager TUI, okay? And then let me do this. So, okay, so we take the screenshot of this. Some other information. I don't think we will need this. Yeah. So maximum transmission unit. Okay, so these are all some of the details. Let me just say quick. Okay. Okay. Yeah, from time to time, sandbox becomes unresponsive. So here I will type network manager TUI, text user interface. Okay, now this opened. So now let's look at the instructions. So here we will edit a connection. Okay, so edit connection while this is highlighted, press enter, and then, so let me go back here. And so by using the arrow key up and down, you can change. And then here, edit connection, press enter, and then we see the Ethernet. The Ethernet is selected, okay, and then you press tab to go to the edit right here, okay, and then when you are at edit, just press enter. Okay, so here I press tab and then I come to edit, or actually you can go do up and down, edit, press enter again. All right, so here we will change a few things. So you may get confused that sometimes you see ENS 192, sometimes, again, so this is ENS 192, and this is ENS 160. It is because some of the screenshots were from the previous years, that comes from the master course. But because I complete this project myself, and then I took screenshot for this course specifically, so I changed some of the screenshots, but not all of them. So when you see 192, I believe that will not confuse you a lot, so that will be obvious to you. So here we say edit, and then we will change the IP address. Instead of automatically assigning, we will say manual for the IP address. Okay, let's do that. So here press tab, and then press tab again. So this for the Ethernet, press tab. Okay, so this is, if you press tab more than once, you can do shift tab to undo, to go other direction. Okay, so here automatic is selected, press enter. Now by using the arrow key up and down, you come to here, manual. Okay, press enter. Now it is manual, and then press tab again. Now it says show. Okay, press enter. Now you see addresses, gateway, DNS servers. So here we will need to use some of the information that we recorded earlier. As you see here, let me highlight. It says type in IP4 address you recorded earlier, and tab to, okay. So for this one, actually, let me put that screenshot. Let me put this screenshot on the screen so that you can also see what I am seeing. Okay, yes, I put that on the screen so you can also see from here. So IP address is here, IP4 address. So it is 192.168.10.242, okay? So is it the same as here? No, as you see now, this is different. Yes, so here, 192.168. Okay, it says add, press enter, 192.168.10. I believe it was 242. Yes, and then subnet mask 24. Okay. Okay, here, slash 24. Now press tab to come to the gateway. Okay. Okay, so gateway. Okay, so gateway is this one, ends with the 1. So it is 192.168.10.1. Press tab and DNS servers. Press enter. Okay, so for the DNS servers, so we will add 2 of them. So the DNS servers are here, as you see, DNS1, DNS2 right here, and it is this one, 10 27 32. 10 27 32. 3 and 2. Okay, and then press tab to add one more time. So press tab twice, and then it says add, press enter. Now 10, I believe it is the same, but 25. Okay, 25, 3 and 2. Okay, so this is good. What else? That's all. And then press tab to go to the OK button, and then press enter. Press tab until you come to the OK. One more time. OK. It says OK, press enter. Okay, very good. Now, I think we will go back. Yes, go back. And at the main screen, set system hostname. Okay, press tab, back. And then set system hostname, enter. In here, if you want to change the host name, this is where you do that, but we are not going to change it. We will just keep it as this. But remember, in your case, it will be Lin, but because I am using two virtual machines, I will keep it as Lin2. Okay, so we are not changing anything here. And tap to quit, and then close the network manager. So here, okay. So I will just say cancel. So here, quit. Okay, so we just quit the network manager. So to apply these settings, we must stop and start the network card. Okay, so to do this, we say if down, and then the name of the Ethernet card, and sudo if down, sudo if down, and as you remember, it is ENS 160. ENS 160. Okay, password. Okay, so it is down. At this moment, you don't have internet connection. Okay, now IF up. Okay, IF up, and then so sudo IF up, and then ENS 160. Okay, it says connection successfully activated. So to verify that it is applied, check the INET, so INET address of the Ethernet adapter to make sure that it matches the one that you set. IF config. Okay, so here we have at the top here ENS 160 and INET here. So yes, so it works. So this is what we assigned already. And then, yeah, that's all. So, and here, to verify that the connection is working, try to ping Google, okay? And then you take the screenshot and also make sure that your username is visible somewhere on this screen. So here I say ping google.com. enter. Okay, yeah, it works. So see, you get responses. So I will say Control C to complete to get out, and then here you take a screenshot. Okay, so this would be your first screenshot. Now part 2. Okay, so now part 2 is installing and updating software for network services. Remember, we are trying to have a web server in this assignment. So we need to, before we configure the services, we need to make sure that they are all installed and they are up to date. And we can do this by using YAM package manager. So the services that we need, firewall D. So firewall D is this provides packet filtering firewall security for our system. So this is like a traffic police officer that is who can get in and who cannot get in. Okay, so there are a bunch of rules, and then to keep your internal network safe from the internet. And then Samba, this service provides file sharing using the SMB protocol, okay, small message block protocol. And Samba client, this service goes along with the Samba, and it allows the clients to connect. And Apache, so this is the HTTPD. So this service allows for web services to connect through the HTTP or HTTPS protocol. Okay, so it is Apache is very common. It is one of the most widely used web services. It is because it is open source. Apache is an open source organization, and that creates a lot of different software. So now let's install and check for updates for all of the services using a single command. Okay, so we say sudo yum and install, and then we use Samba client and so on. So let's do that. Okay, sudo yum okay. Okay, install, and the first one was the Samba, and then Samba client HTTPD. Samba client HTTPD. Okay, enter. Are you sure, or is this okay? Yes. Okay, so should make sure that they are running and they are enabled. And we can do this using the systemctl command. So I think we saw this maybe last week or the week before, maybe 2 weeks ago. So some of the service names are different from the package names. Okay, so yeah, the package names and service names might be different. So here is a list of all services. So these are the packages. Okay, we use the package names, but the service names are SMB, NMB, and then HTTPD and so on. Okay. All right, so here, so NMB, this service works with the Samba, and it allows to connect via NetBIOS computer name. So it is a Microsoft protocol to allow the systems to access to network by using the computer name instead of IP address. So it makes it easier for the users to remember the host names instead of the IP addresses. So let's look at the status. Okay, complete. Yes, very good. Now, let's start and enable each service by using, so if we look at the status of SMB, okay? So let me type this, sudo systemctl, sudo systemctl status SMB. Okay, and it says inactive, dead, okay? It says right here. And so here, we need to type these comments, systemctl, start SMB, and then enable SMB, okay? Sudo system SMB and start, I'm sorry, not system SMB. What am I doing? CTL, systemctl, start SMB. Okay, and then as you see here, we say enable SMB so that it runs next time automatically when we reboot, enable SMB. Okay, and we talk about that it creates a symbolic link so that next time we boot, it starts automatically. And what else? NMB. Okay, so sudo systemctl start NMB and enable NMB. Okay, that's good. And the next one is the Apache server, HTTPD. HTTPD. Okay. I don't know what happened. Okay. Normally it doesn't take this long. I don't know what happened. Anyway, so let me go back to the PDF file and then explain. So after we start and enable HTTPD, that means we have 3 services up and running already. So when we say check the status of each of them, we do this, checking the status, and then we should see active running. Okay, so the active saying that is it active? If it is not, then it says so it is dead. It's not running. Okay, now let me enable. Sandbox becomes very slow time to time. Enable. Okay, and now let's check the status. Sudo systemctl status SMB. Okay, and it says active. Okay, and okay, and also let's look at NMB. NMB. Okay, so it is also active right here, green color. And then for the assignment, you will check the status for the HTTPD, and then you take a screenshot and you submit. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
It keeps on saying that my SMB.service unit is not found.
It might be because some of the previous steps may not. So this one, the sudo yum install.
Yeah, I did that,
The
and
same thing happened with me, and it was because I forgot to do the sudo yum install firewall.
Yes. So just try this again and make sure that you enter your password and then it installs.
okay,
Yeah.
I'll try.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Now we are in the part 3. So how many parts do we have? Part 4, part 5, 6. Okay, so that means if we complete part 3 today, then so we are on track. So part 3 is to configure the firewall. So to allow services to connect to our system, we must allow them through firewall service. So why is this important? Imagine that you have a web server, but you don't allow visitors to get in, right? So this would be a problem. Then what is the purpose of having the web server? So we need to say that, but also at the same time, we don't want to say, okay, just get in, whoever you are, whatever you do, just get in. So you don't want to completely wide open. So still, you should consider security, and you will you will give some permission only what is needed. Okay, no more than what is needed. So this is the basic principle or rule of thumb for the security. Okay, and so by default, most services are blocked by the security feature to prevent unwanted access to the system. So to configure firewall, we will use firewall cmd command. And so here, let's check which services are currently allowed through the firewall. So we type this firewall cmd, and then as you see, this option is more than one character. So we use 2 dashes, saying that it is not -l, -i, -s, but it is the entire word. Okay, so firewall cmd. cmd, 2 dashes, and then list services. List services. Okay, enter, and then password. Okay, and as you see here, what services are available? SSH and DHCP v6 client. Okay, and so we need to enable or give permission to more services. So we will SSH secure shell. Okay, so we will use SSH to connect remotely to the system, and DHCP helps with the network settings. So we will keep them. So we will leave this allowed. Okay, but we will allow more services by using the through the firewall, by using the port number for the service or a predefined file for each service. The predefined service files are the easier way to go, since some services require multiple ports. Okay, so consider ports like a whole. Okay, so for example, FTP. I think FTP uses port 20 and 21, and for the HTTP protocol, port 80 is used. So some of the ports are assigned to some of the protocols. Okay, so we can find a list of these files in this directory. So do a directory listing of firewall D service directory. So let's look at this. So ls, and then we look at this file, and then we pipe it to another command, less. So we say ls, okay, so user lib, and then firewall D services. Firewall D, okay, services. And then we pipe it to less so that we can go up and down less. Okay, so we have a lot of services, and okay, so if you scroll down, you will find files for each of the services we need, including Samba, HTTP, HTTPS, and so on. Okay, so here, let me see. Okay, I see HTTP, and then let's see. Samba is also here. Okay, so let me say Q, and then so open the file for the Samba service to view the contents. Okay, so under the services we see some XML files, and let me look at that. Sudo less. Okay, maybe I can just do this. Sudo less services and Samba XML. Okay, password. Okay, so here we see what ports is needed for this. So instead of using and memorizing all of the ports, we just use these files. Okay. Yeah, so because these files have all information for the individual ports that need to be opened for this service, and we can use these files to simplify our tasks for the firewall. And so we want to allow the Samba service through the firewall using the following command. That is, we say firewall CMD, and then we say permanent and add service Samba. So this command actually uses the XML file to figure out which ports needs to be opened for this service. Okay. So I say sudo firewall CMD. So here Q, okay, sudo firewall CMD, and then permanent add service. Permanent, and then add service Samba. Okay, as you see here, add service Samba. Enter. Okay, it says success. Okay, that's good. Yeah, the permanent option sets the service to always be allowed, even after a reboot of the system. So before the service is allowed through, we must reload the firewall. Okay, so we change some of the rules for the firewall, but in order these rules to take effect, we reload the firewall, okay? And we say sudo firewall cmd, sudo firewall cmd, and then reload. Okay, success. Now let's see which services are allowed. So we say sudo firewall cmd list services. Sudo firewall cmd list services. Okay, if you remember, we had SSH and DHCP only. Now, in addition, we also have Samba. Okay, so Samba is also allowed by the firewall. Okay, now add the remaining services: Samba client, HTTP, HTTPS. Okay, because HTTP is using port 80. I don't know what Samba client is using. HTTPS, I believe it must be 443. So these are the port numbers for these protocols. So Samba client. So let me go up again. Okay, so here Samba client. So here, for some reason, if you press tab, it just shows that. Okay, so I need to type. So that is Samba client. Enter. Okay, success. And then HTTP, HTTPS. HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, and let's see what happens. Sudo firewall cmd list services. I cannot see them. Why? I cannot see. Yeah.
Is it because you didn't reload the page or the services?
Yes, exactly. Yes, very good. I did not type it on purpose to see if anybody catches. Yes, as you see here, let me highlight this. Reload. Okay, I need to reload this. Okay, reload. Yes, very good. Now, if I list services, now, yes, very good. It shows HTTP, HTTPS, Samba, Samba client, and all of this. I believe you need to take a screenshot here. Screenshot 3, yes. Right. And there is one more security measure that we need to do so our service work properly. If you are not muted, I mean, if you are not asking question, please mute yourself because I see some background noise. So here, the Linux has a kernel level security feature known as SE Linux. So the proper configuration is outside of the scope of this course, but we are simply going to disable it. And here it says, this is not recommended on a production server system, to disable this. But we will just disable it so our system works. So open the SE Linux configuration file by using the VI, and then we will change that. Okay, so here sudo vi, and that is located in etc SE Linux config. Etc SE Linux config. Okay, press enter. Now, if you look at the sixth line. It says SE Linux enforcing. We will change this part. Okay. So to change, first I press I to go to the insert mode. And then here, where it says enforcing, I will make it disabled. Disabled. Okay. Now press escape, colon, right and Q, WQ. Okay. Now we also did that. Okay. And make sure that you type it correctly. And then reboot the system with this command, reboot. Reboot. And wait a little bit. So here, first one, enter. And so once the system reboots, you can close the console window for your Linux. And now we will complete the rest of this assignment remotely from the Windows 10 system.